Okay, so now we are going to start with the students of our master's degree. As I said, they do research, they have to write an article in English, and they will present their object of research now. Students, I will stop sharing. Who is going to start? You have the floor.
Okay, it's me.
Okay.
For the PowerPoint, I'll keep sharing it, but then other people will talk. It's okay?
You have to share the PowerPoint, please.
Yeah, I will do it. Yeah. Okay. Is it sharing now or? Oh,
No, not yet. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
okay. I'll do this. Okay. Maybe I'll keep sharing for the rest of the groups. I don't know if.
It's okay. It's okay. You can do that. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'll start with the first group. So we are Evan, myself, Louis, and Mafalda. And we've decided to tackle the impact of text generator on technical communication field. So here's our plan, basically. We have chosen this topic because it recently made a breakthrough, as you might know it, with ChatGPT and OpenAI's other bot like DALL-E, for example. AI have already changed the way people work. You can, for example, see developers that are using ChatGPT to code in different languages very quickly, or even create pictures free of use. With this article, our goal is to find different how AI can help the technical communicator in his work, because as you know, technical writer needs to code in several languages or generate procedure following specific standard and norms, and it also can be useful to really generate text extremely quickly. And the question of our article, will be in two parts. To what extent the AI text generator can transform the technical communication field, because it is really a game changer, and how can it be embraced by technical communicators?
Well, we believe right now we are currently living in a key moment. For example, AI technology just made a breakthrough. It is for us today what computers have been for people in the 80s and 90s. And we think that it is an extremely promising technology that has not yet reached its full potential. But maybe it will be crucial in the future to know how to use AI and text generators to keep being competitive in terms of productivity. And we think that we should embrace, control, and use this technology rather than being afraid of being replaced by it.
So the objectives of our research are to anticipate the different aspects of AI in technical communication, to understand how to optimize our usage of AI at work, and to identify the limits of AI-generated text. If you, acquaintances, or your company uses or have had an experience using AI technology or text generators, please contact us at this email address. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this address. So if AI is important for you, please contact this group and give them feedback on what you've on this subject. I'll let you see some more seconds. Okay, and we go to the second part. Students, please share your video, your camera, if you can, because it's nicer to see people who are talking. Thank you. I leave you the floor, Camille, Kenza, and Georgina.
Thank you. So we chose to study the impact of the lack of technical writers on companies. So in some companies where we work, documentation is extremely important. And when a product has insufficient documentation, the customer can think that the product is unusable. We also have witnessed the need to review documentation written by engineers because it was not meeting consumer needs. So all of this led us to believe that one, having a technical writer in the documentation process may lead to better documentation, and that two, documentation may be linked to company performance.
So these hypotheses, documentation impacting company performance and technical writers impacting documentation, made us want to observe the link between technical writers and company performance. So we would like to explore the causes and consequences of not having a technical writer to produce documentation. We intend to explore whether companies don't hire technical writers when they need one. Is it because the job isn't well known? Is it because they don't believe documentation is important? Is it because they believe anyone can write documentation? So we would like to verify that well-written documentation has an impact on the success of a brand and has an impact on the customer service costs, determining which methods and KPIs can demonstrate this. Next slide, please.
Thanks. So maybe you've witnessed a lack of technical writers in your workplace, but we'd like to know your experience. So we're looking for insight from anyone that's worked in a company that requires documentation for the products it develops. So if you're interested in our research project, you can scan the QR code or use the link below it to fill in a form, or you can contact us by email if you prefer. If you don't think our subject is interesting, you can contact us anyway to let us know why. Thanks.
I particularly liked the third proposal that you said, Georgina. Why are you not interested in this subject? Very interesting too. So we leave this slide for some seconds so everyone can take a picture or whatsoever, or register the QR code. Thank you very much. Well done. Next, please.
So hello everyone. So we are Laetitia, Camille and Céline, and we are dealing with the transversality of a technical communicator. So our research project tackles the transversality of the technical writer's job. The fact that technical communicators work in a wide variety of fields and their tasks span several professions was the main motivation for the question on this topic. Since the technical writers have to adapt to each field in which they work, so their role is very versatile. It is therefore relevant to ask about the limits of this job, of the proficiency skills, and the implication of this interdisciplinarity in their work. So this led us to ask what really makes a technical writer. For example, if technical writers, as part of their job, write newsletters, would they also be web editors, for example? And if their activity includes UX design, would they wear the UX designer hat also? So finally, the question is, what can't a technical writer do?
Which brings us to the next question. Does the transversality of a technical writer impact the job's evolution, and to what extent? With the advent of new technologies such as AI, like they talked to just before, like ChatGPT, and of course, computer-assisted software, the evolution of the profession seems relevant to analyze as well. Of course, all contributions are welcome to assist our research process. We need to survey a wide range of technical communicators from different backgrounds and with a wide range of skills developed over the course of their careers. Contributions from communicators working in the same field would also be welcome, and we would be really grateful for any help you can give us. Please contact us, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for this nice contribution, and I'm sure that you will have a lot of feedback from technical writers, confirmed technical writers. So you've created a Gmail group. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, please.
Hello everyone, so this is our subject and we would like to present our subject in the form of storytelling. Next slide, please. So everything started with the technical writers who used to work with LibreOffice, Microsoft Word, and FrameMaker to write their documentation. Until one day, some decided to migrate towards data editors, thinking that it is a better option than other single sourcing software. Next slide, please. We think that the data norm has become the monopoly of technical writers and that the data editor Oxygen is the one that comes first in our mind. This monopoly seems to grow and we see almost no competitors to Oxygen. And we obviously heard about the fact that the lesser the competition, the lesser the development. And we fear that this lack of competition within editors may slow down the development. Next slide, please. So we wonder how the migration towards data editors may limit the future of technical writing. So to conduct our research, we seek answers to the following questions. We invite you to read these questions. Next slide, please. So if you initiated the migration towards data editors and you are interested in our subject, please contact us through our LinkedIn profiles or our mail. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tesmi. As you've seen, they also noted the company they are apprentices in. So thank you very much. Just a few seconds to let you take this information. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. You can go to the next slide, please. So we are going to present our article topic, which is about the implementation of visuals in technical writing. You can go to the next slide, please. So as you all probably aware of, there are different types of visuals in technical writing that we use to improve the readability and effectiveness of our documentation. We can find visuals like diagrams, graphs, tables, pictures, and videos. And you're probably wondering why we chose to dive into this topic in particular. You can go to the next slide, please. So the selection of this topic was based on our professional experiences. We decided to choose this topic because we each had a different experience while handling visuals in documentation. So I had to create a couple of graphics in my work, and I noticed that in my company, we don't have a highly standardized process for images for technical documentation. So, and my teammates, Anna and Salma, both have an image library in which they can use for visuals. But again, for Salma, for example, is allowed to use multiple resources, whereas Anna used specific templates established by her company. You can go to the next slide, please. And after a discussion, we came to the conclusion that each company has its own unique approach to implement visuals, and that there are different factors that are at stake in elaborating these strategies. And ultimately, this research aims to observe and compare the strategies used by different companies in dealing with visuals. You can go to the next slide, please. So our problem is focused on a single question. So what are the different factors that shape companies' strategies for implementing visuals in technical writing? Next slide, please. So we think that there are a couple of hypotheses that we think are relevant. We suppose that the strategy behind the selection of visuals depends on the size of the company, the technical subject, the skills of the tech writer, and the proximity and influence of marketing department on technical writing. Next slide, please. So that's it for us. And here are our contacts if you're interested in participating in our research. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Razia. Just a few seconds for this last slide. Thank you.
So good morning, we are Fanny, Claire and Rebecca. Today we are going to present to you our research subject. So we got this idea when we noticed a rise in demand for video guides from several companies. And at the same time, we observed a tendency to reduce the visual content in documentation. So from this observation, we wondered if the use of video content goes against visual minimalism. Next slide, please.
So we decided to study the contrast between the two methods and found ourselves quite torn on the matter because we work in different fields and have different experiences. But from what we had gathered so far, our current hypothesis is that whether video content hinders visual minimalism or not depends on the field. Next slide, please.
So indeed, in e-learning, videos are one of the main tools used by technical communicators because their aim is more pedagogical. So videos are useful to help the learner understand. Regarding the other fields, so for instance, industrial, military and software documentations are often longer and might be more subject to change. And that makes the documents in these fields harder to maintain. Next slide, please. So in order to verify this hypothesis, we might wonder about the following points, and I give you a few seconds to read them. Next slide, please. We would love to have your opinion on this matter. You can contact us on these addresses. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Just a few seconds so you can take this information.
Hello, everyone. We are Xavier Lucas, Sophonis, and Gladys. We are going to talk about the accessibility for visually impaired people. Next slide, please. These are planned for our presentations. Next slide, please. So people with disability are a minority in the populations. This is a problem that involves almost 40% of the world population, according to the WHO. And unfortunately, this issue is not properly considered and the means of development are slowing down, especially in the world of technical communications. Besides, there is really little information on this subject with little occurrences on the internet, and the only recommendations that can be useful for the documentation involve text made for the web. And the reason why we chose this subject came when one of our close classmates noticed in her company that there was a co-worker with reduced mobility. And as we discussed to find our topic, the question arose for other disability. In particular, for the customer to see the means that can be put in place to ensure that they have access to technical documents. That lead to our problematic. Next slide, please. What can be done for the visually impaired people?
Next slide, please. So here are some tips or solutions, a few of them to help visually impaired people to read your documentation. So first of all, your content must be structured. So use headings, section, etc. to organize your text. Secondly, try to provide audio description for multimedia content. It is important to provide documents that are compatible with assistive technologies like screen readers. Then use clear and simple language that is easy to understand and that is free of jargon or complex technical terms. Then finally, colors are very important because they help them to see better. They provide a strong contrast between the text and the background. So the most common one that are used are black on white, white on black, yellow on black, or green on white. Next slide, please.
Yes, so we can also talk about the accessibility checker in Microsoft used to tackle accessibility issues while you're writing your document, for example. So assistive technologies for people with vision impairment or blindness may include video magnifiers, braille printers, and braille watches, and other devices for writing and reading with low vision. However, there's still a lack of implementation of those in many companies, which can also be explained by their high costs and high costs associated with data acquisition systems and inefficient workforce or anticipated to hinder the market growth. So all in all, the accessibility standards provided for the 2005 law remains an undeniable step forward, but they still need to be applied and spread, but one never knows when a new method may become inexpensive enough to be adopted as the new accepted technology. Next slide, please. So thanks for listening to us. And if you want to contact us to see what we've done, we shared our addresses. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gladys, and all of you. Are we done? Was it the last group? Okay, thank you very much. So you can unshare your screen. Thank you. And now you have the floor. So if you want to ask questions to our students, please do. If you want to write something in the chat, please do. And well, it's up to you. Okay, we don't have a first question, but I'm sure we have a second one. Okay, Yvette Aliman is speaking. Yes, of course. Sorry. Yes, of course, Yvette, you will have the list of everything after the conference. Okay, everybody's thrilled, but I'm sure you have questions.
Hi, I thought I'd maybe try and contribute.
Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned using the Microsoft Accessibility Checker, and while it's a brilliant idea, we're also technical writers, and most of us try not to use Word, or I mean, there's a few companies that are still using Word. Have you done any research into other accessibility checkers that can be integrated with XML editors or with the delivery platforms?
Could you please answer, students, to Deepo?
No, we didn't look around for that.
What would be your advice, Deepo, for the students?
Well, there's more and more of them coming up online now that you can. It's hard to do with your XML editor. However, with the output, you could use things that can read HTML pages. You can test HTML pages. I don't have any particular names in mind at the moment, so I'll look into that as well. Maybe send you a couple of things on that.
got something to add. Sorry to interrupt. This is Danielle Cook from Dassault Systèmes. In terms of accessibility checks, there are lots of tools out there. In terms of XML editors, something that we use is something called Acrolinks. It's actually a text checker similar to Grammarly that actually helps to respond to simple.
Danielle, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We cannot hear you very well. Can you do something for us, please?
Yeah.
We've lost you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better, but there's an echo. So can you?
What about now?
Yes, better. Thank you very much, Daniel. Would you please start over all over again?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Right, so in terms of doing accessibility checks when we're actually writing content, it is a little bit difficult to do it in an XML editor such as Oxygen, but there are some tools that do respond to the need for clear and concise language. There's Acrolinks, there's Grammarly, and then also for the HTML output, if ever you're using an HTML to display your documentation, there are lots of accessibility checkers out there. There's Andi, it's ANDI. It's a wonderful tool. I will certainly be getting in contact with each of the three of you. Accessibility is something that I'm very passionate about and that I've tried to implement within Dassault Systèmes. I have lots to share with you, so you'll certainly be hearing from me.
Thank you very much, Danielle.
Okay, I'm very excited.
Yes, it's
Thank
going
you.
to be a great help for the students. Thank you, Danielle. Okay, another question or feedback? Nobody's interested in video?
I actually have a question. Hello. To the group that is preparing the research on data XML editors, you said that Oxygen is the most dominant one. Is it based on some kind of research, or how did you come up with the assumption that Oxygen is the most dominant one?
Well, hello, thank you for your question. So it's just a hypothesis for now, and we just suggested the Oxygen is an option that is preferred in our companies where we are currently in apprenticeship. So in my friend's company, they also use Oxygen as a data editor, and currently some of them are migrating towards Oxygen. So that's why from our experience, we thought about.
Okay, so you can relate to
yes,
generally speaking.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Marie, do you have something to add to that?
Not really. It would be interesting to hear maybe from software vendors if they've got some market research on who's taking the most part.
I think they do, actually. They do market research for sure. So you can have a look.
They're willing to share it.
Okay, yes.
I was going to say something about this as well. We use Oxygen in our company, Talent, but to consider, we've been in Oxygen for a long time, and we're starting to think about maybe moving away to something like Markdown or AsciiDoc or this kind of thing. So I think it's not necessarily true to say that. I had the impression from the presentation that you were saying DITA is the big new thing, and it's anything but new.
Yeah, some say it's outdated already.
Yes, exactly. So be careful about that.
While I will, agree that Markdown is the new kid on the block, when it comes to producing multiple and huge loads of documentation, I think the market for DITA is still there. It went through a slight slump, but it's like, being rejuvenated again. And the market is opening up. There more and more manufacturing. The manufacturing industry is moving more and more towards DITA. But yeah, XML is the standard, we could say. And then from there, depending on what you're documenting, Markdown works very well in software environments. However, in manufacturing, and maybe in publishing, you find like, DocBook and DITA are the predominant XML standards there. And regarding Oxygen, Oxygen has been in the game for so long, and their developers are very reactive. They do form part of the OASIS committee, so they work very well, very closely with DITA. They implement the new standards, the new specifications pretty much as soon as they come out, and they put out loads of publication plugins for the open toolkit and so on. So that's where their market domination comes into place. However, you do have like, the madcap flares. Pop Metal, I think, went out of business. Well, there's Fonto Editor as well, which provides like, a very nice interface, which is sort of less complicated than an Oxygen one. And so you find like, there are some companies that go towards that. I think it's the provision of APIs, the ability to plug into several CCMSs that determines where most people who use DITA, their choice in editor. Oxygen is just at the top of the game there.
Of course, we are talking about France. Maybe if you come from other countries, you could have. I was just saying that Dipo is an instructor in our program. He works in France, and so maybe it's a French reaction. But students, please, you have an alumni site with a lot of technical writers that have been trained in our programs, so you can make a research from that and not only say we do that in our companies, so it must be the very best program. So please use our alumni site, and I can help you with that. Thank you very much. Another question, and we have 5 minutes more, and then we will give the floor to Barbara from Poland. So another question, please. No other question? Fanny, would you like to say something?
I don't have a question, but a remark on what was just said about the formats. I think that formats and tooling are very closely related. So for Docs as Code to become a strong alternative to DITA, it requires strong tooling. So it will be interesting to see whether this kind of technology can close this gap of maturity that it currently has with DITA. So I hope that the research will also touch on that.
Thank you very much for this insight, very important. I hope students, you've been taking note, and Fanny will surely help you and give you feedback, I'm sure. Thank you. Anyone? Any question?
I mean, it's not much of a question. I was just wanting to say that the topic about the transversality of the technical communicator is a very interesting idea, because that's something that we wonder about as technical writers quite a bit, with the definition of done that is sometimes not completely clear for developers, where we have to say documentation we have to have something to work with. And we also have to sometimes put up walls and boundaries saying like, you can't ping us for this, that, and the other thing. So it's interesting to get into it and try to kind of figure out how many hats you wear, because we do wear quite a few of them. Keeps us warm, and it's great, but it's definitely a lot of different, it's not just one thing, and there's definitely a lot of layers. And yeah, it's an interesting topic, but we do question ourselves about that every single day.
Thank you very much for your insight, Clément. It was very helpful too. So, last remark or question?
Yeah, I'll just comment about the AI one, because one of my previous positions was actually training in AI. So I was a writer, but training in AI. This was for Microsoft. So it was maybe a little bit different than what the group doing the AI research is thinking. I think they were thinking more in terms of how it will change users and the profession. But I have some thoughts about the process of training and biases that are involved in that. So the fact that it may seem very advanced for certain types of English, and it usually is just English where it's very advanced, although with Google Translate and so on, that's different. But in terms of chat assistants, there is definitely cultural bias in how these AIs are trained. And also the processes that are used to train them and the labor implications of that, and using things like Mechanical Turk and how this data is being generated to train these AIs is also a very interesting topic. So I will try to reach out by email and we can maybe elaborate on that.
Thank you very much, Craig. Craig is talking this afternoon at 3, and thank you very much. He is a freelancer, and I will talk about him later. Thank you very much for your help to the students and for this new subject that we're hearing about more and more.